Okay, welcome to Talk It Out Tuesday. I am your live host, Marika Goolsby. I'm a former foster youth and adoptee. I wrote a book about my time in care. My memoir is called A Flower Called Orphan Girl. Get your copy as soon as you can. Get it right now, even, you know. But I go live every day, not every day, Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, talking about all things foster care and adoption. Today is Talk It Out Tuesday, and what we're talking about is what we think and what we feel about the information I started presenting yesterday during Money and Politics Monday. So the first question I asked was, do you know who Rick Jackson is? Most people was like, nope, no. Actually, I don't think one person said they had heard of him. Everybody was like, nope, never heard of him. So Rick Jackson, this is a recap. Rick Jackson is a billionaire who started in foster care. He had a troublesome childhood, got into foster care when he was 13, aged out, and according to him, was able to turn his life into a rags to riches story, becoming a billionaire. And now he is running for Georgia governor. So I think when I first read all that, I was like, well, when I first read former foster youth turns billionaire running for governor, at first I was like, wow, okay. But then, of course, you dig a little deeper and then you find all this. He's a MAGA Republican. And sad. So to me, the whole story is kind of like a sweet piece of candy that has a nasty aftertaste. Like seriously. So anyway, that's the foundation of what we're talking about today. So we were going through this article yesterday, and I do want to get through the rest of it and hear what y'all think and what y'all feel about it. Okay, so we were on the part that says a childhood in foster care. The story Jackson has told about his tumultuous childhood is the stuff of country ballads. A father who walked out when he was a baby, a mother who struggled with alcohol, and a pull yourself up by your bootstrap ethos. So even though his mother was struggling, she still probably was beating herself up, trying to pull herself up by her bootstraps. In fact, he did set that tale to song in a campaign music video, which I still haven't listened to yet, but I will, featuring a guitar-slinging crooner who juxtaposes Jackson's hard-scrabble upbringing against the suited, successful version of him today. So he done turned his whole narrative into a song. Hey, Milf Chamberlain. There it is. I'm sorry. Welcome in, Ask Patrick. I just did a recap of what we were talking about yesterday as far as Money and Politics Monday. Okay, let's continue. In a 2024 podcast appearance, Jackson said he grew up in the slums in Atlanta, more specifically, Atlanta's Techwood Homes, considered the country's first federally funded public housing project. It was eventually demolished. So he really put it out there that, he grew up tough. He's really leaning in on his rags to riches story. Let's see. Jackson has said he entered the child welfare system at 13, cycled through 5 foster homes, and a now shuttered orphans home. So from 13 to 18, that's like a home a year, right? 5 different foster homes. Okay, and then he says, most foster kids do grow up faster than most people, unnecessarily so, but they have to because they are faced with things that they shouldn't be. Jackson said on the Knowledge Cast podcast, it was very difficult just to survive, but it created a foundation of independence and control that probably has impacted my career, my life for a long time now. So what he's basically saying is that his time, growing up in the roughest projects, public housing that needed to be torn down, and going through 5 different foster homes has made him stronger. That's the impression I am getting. All right. After aging out, he attended college but dropped out when it became unaffordable. He said on the podcast, his ascension as one of the country's leading business moguls. So he went from rough and tough public housing to foster care to country's leading business mogul. Okay, how? Began with the commission-based sales jobs, then small business ownership. So he went from being a salesman to owning his own. It doesn't really give details. Hey, DJ Cal, welcome in. It doesn't really give details about how he bridged those two things. And then a string of entrepreneurial ventures. I'm pretty sure you had to have a ton of support to be able to do that. That's not just something you can do on your own without capital, without, failing several times before you're successful. So those eventually evolved into what is now known as Jackson Healthcare, one of the country's largest healthcare staffing companies, totaling $3 billion in revenue annually and operating in all 50 states. So that's why he pats himself on the back like, I had this really rough upbringing. Hey, Care Bear, welcome in. But I was able to do it. And I just, all right, continuing. Okay, according to his campaign website, Jackson Healthcare also owns U.S. Antibiotics, which says it is the country's sole manufacturer of 2 widely used antibiotics. All right, so now this is his background that he is really leaning heavily into as far as running for governor. Now, of Georgia. So Jackson's influence in Georgia, while positioning himself in the governor's race as a political outsider, Jackson's vast personal wealth has allowed him to access and influence state political circles for years. So that lets us know he's been kind of pulling strings in the background and not really being visible to the public, because most people never heard of him. And most people never heard of him because it says that he positions himself as a political outsider. He has donated to national GOP figures such as Jeb Bush, a former business partner who also sits on Jackson Healthcare's advisory board, and a long list of Georgia Republicans, including current Governor Brian Kemp. So he is well connected because of his being a multi-billionaire. Yeah, and even more reason why he leans so heavily into this rags to riches story. Or, what he's saying is his lived experience. His major achievements in child welfare advocacy is the passage of the Fostering Success Act in 2022. So he's done a little advocacy work as far as child welfare. Is it really advocacy work? That's another question that we need to look into. Okay, let's see. The law gives Georgia taxpayers a 100% credit for donations made to state-certified organizations that provide wraparound services for foster youth aging out of the system. So you donate. Oh, hi, Rachel. We are talking about Rick Jackson. He was a former foster youth that aged out of the system, was able to become a billionaire, and is now running for Georgia governor. And he's a Republican. And he has lots of ties due to being a multi-billionaire due to his healthcare businesses. That's who we're talking about. And I was bringing this to the Wildflower team because when you first read former foster youth running for governor, you think, oh, wow, that's impressive. Like, how did that happen, right? He aged out of the system. He was not adopted. But it's like a sweet candy that starts out good and then it has a nasty aftertaste. So the more you get into it and then you're like, oh. At least that was my reaction. Okay, so that's what we're talking about. And let me see, where were we? Okay, where were we? We were, oh, here we go. Okay, here we go. All right. Afterward, Jackson founded a nonprofit to distribute the funds. The Fostering Success Act, Inc.'s website states that all donated money goes directly to foster youth for college-related expenses, including housing, counseling, transportation, and food, and that overhead costs are covered by an unnamed outside donor. Is this what you were talking about last night? Yes, it is. We didn't get through the entire article, and I definitely didn't even get to hear people on the panel their responses. So I just want to finish this up and hear what people what you think and what you feel when you hear about this stuff. Let me see. Okay, according to its most recently publicly available tax filings, Fostering Success Act, Inc. reported revenue of more than $11 million in 2024. That's a lot of donations being made and being written off 100%. You know, anytime it's like GOP, Republican, I'm like hella suspicious. All right. Okay, during his candidacy announcement in February, Jackson told a story about a lawmaker who once told him he had never heard anyone bring up foster care at the state capitol before Jackson. What is he, deaf? Care Bear says any nonprofit has to deploy at least a certain percentage of donations each year. Let me see. Okay, right then, after hearing no one had brought it up at the Capitol, right then I committed to doing everything I could to help those without a voice, Jackson said. And together we passed a bill that today helps 500 people who aged out of foster care go to college. Now they have a real chance to break the cycle of dependency and poverty. At times, though, Jackson's policy pursuits and business dealings have drawn controversy. Now we're getting to the real. In 2014, he advocated for a contentious bill that called for dismantling the state's child welfare system and privatizing foster care. I'm a nonprofit accountant. It's 70% to remain a 501c. Okay. Okay, he set up a special session to educate lawmakers about Florida's decision to privatize after being rocked by high-profile child unalives. Georgia's foster care system is certainly not the mess that Florida was, but we know that private local care can produce much better outcomes and prevent the kinds of tragedies that Florida experienced, Jackson testified before senators at the time. So he's comparing Georgia with Florida in an attempt to push what he thinks is best. All right, the proposed legislation would have to put out for bid most child welfare. The proposed legislation would have put out for bid most child welfare services, including adoptions, foster care, and family reunification, to community-based providers. Since 2008, Jackson has been a board member and investor and partner of one of those Georgia-based providers, Faith Bridge Foster Care Inc., which aims to be the state's largest Christian-based foster care and adoption agency. Interesting. So he's already a part of this one agency, and he's trying to make things beneficial for them, basically, and others like them. Care Bear said, I thought it was way less. I saw a video about Elon Musk putting $700 million into his nonprofit, and okay, more is coming there. Okay, so yeah, Faith Bridge Foster Care Inc. Okay. In February, Faith Bridge was listed as one of 35 Georgia organizations that receive funds from the Fostering Success Tax Credit. So wait, only 35 organizations are getting this tax credit. Interesting. And I wonder how many of those 35 are faith-based. Probably a lot. Ultimately, the privatization bill did not pass. Some lawmakers and child welfare advocates called the proposal a rushed effort and argued that outsourcing services would end up being a costly endeavor that wouldn't necessarily provide better services for children. I'm like, yeah, duh. Democrat Representative Mary Margaret Oliver said at the time that privatizing hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars would be a mistake when lawmakers didn't have any real vision of what's going to be accomplished. So it's like, I don't know. It sounds almost like money laundering or something to me. Like, you donate to my nonprofit, and then you get a 100% tax break, and that's what I'm leaving the conversation with it, but not necessarily like how to help the kids. Yeah. All right. So more recently, Jackson's political ties have raised questions about his having benefited financially from contracts with the state government. An analysis in February by the nonprofit news site HealthBeat Atlanta found that Jackson's companies have been paid nearly $1 billion by state agencies since 2020. That's a lot of money in a short amount of time. Those deals include a lucrative COVID-era contract under which his company supplied healthcare providers to over 50 hospitals and 800 nursing homes across Georgia, according to the Georgia Recorder. At the time, critics questioned the lack of a bidding process. Wow. Dang, I lost signal and missed the meat of this conversation. I'll have to look up the article. Oh, okay. It is in the imprint. If you just look up Rick Jackson, it'll probably be the first one that comes up. The recent scrutiny prompted Jackson to tell the Atlanta Constitution in March that if elected, he would work responsibly to unwind any existing contracts between the state and Jackson Healthcare. Yeah. I don't have faith in that. Do you? All right. So I want to hear, what do y'all think? What do you feel? What do you like? Like I said, when you first hear Rick Jackson, former foster youth, running for governor, doesn't that just give a real sweet feeling? Like, it almost makes you think, oh, the system must have really been working. That do you work with nonprofits? Okay, I'm gonna, Care Bear, your comment got There, I have to approve it. There we go. All right, so yeah, I do want to hear what people have to say. What do you think? What do you feel about this person who is really leaning heavily into their lived experience as a former, right, that is weird, Care Bear, a former foster youth turned billionaire because he pulled himself up by his own bootstraps because based on his lived experience, it made him stronger and work harder and all these things. And now he's running for governor. But because of his bootstrapper mentality and his real strong belief that he pulled himself up, he doesn't really fall in alignment with helping people. So I'm real curious. We got 4 people in the room. If you would like to chime in on this more than just in the chat, I would love to have a panel discussion. The way to get the panel going is everybody give your daily heart me. Give your daily heart me. And then there's 3 ways to get on the panel. Give your daily heart me and be a super fan. Give your daily heart me and contribute to the live goal, which right now is the finger snaps. Hey! And gift gallery, which gift gallery, let me see how many things are available in the gift gallery. Oh, 8 things are available. 8 out of 9 are still available. Then, oh, thank you so much for sharing the live, Care Bear. I appreciate you. So that's number 3. Give your daily heart me and tap the screen 1K times. Share this out 60 plus times. So those are the 3 ways to get on the panel. But like I was saying yesterday, I really wanted to finish out this article about this governor's race and see what y'all think. You know, I do think it is well within our right to use our lived experience to connect with people, to relate to people. But the way he is using it, it seems to be to become a bigger billionaire. I don't know. And to become the governor of Georgia. So I'm real curious what people have to say about this. Let me see what's the latest news here. Even more latest news. We have to keep an eye on this. Yeah. So yeah, he's a businessman because he got into pharmaceuticals. He started out as in sales and then went into his ownership, and then now he's like nationwide and operating in all 50 states. And most people see him, most people don't see him. That's, to me, that's huge. That he has done most of his career kind of in the background, in the shadows. But using his billions for influence. And I think, like, yeah, that is a big deal. That now this person is wanting to step forward into the limelight and be like, yeah, I'm the governor. All right. We got 5 people. That's awesome. Now, who would like to come up and chime in on this? What does it make you think? What does it make you feel that a former foster youth that aged out of the system turned billionaire is now running for governor and using that real lived experience to get votes, basically, to say, I'm tough, I'm a hard worker, I pulled myself up by my bootstraps, I'm going to be cutting funding to handouts. He was quoted as saying, you know, if you want to sit around watching Netflix, you know, eating Cheetos, do it with your own money. Like, the state's no longer funding that. Like, it's like, bootstrapperism is so dangerous. So dangerous because it ignores ignores systemic oppression. It ignores it completely, like that doesn't exist. You just need to figure out how to pull yourself up. Very dangerous, and very much blaming the person that is struggling and trying to survive, which is interesting considering his background, that he was a former foster youth from age 13 to 18. So it's not like he grew up in foster care. Well, if you're 13, I mean, you're still growing up, but it's not like he was in foster care from infancy, or that he, was in foster care like his entire childhood. But then I guess for people that say, oh, you were only there for 5 years, then he's like, yeah, but before that I was in one of the toughest, poorest housing projects. So he says all this backstory is what makes him so tough and so strong. And maybe that's something people in Georgia will appreciate and feel like, yeah, this is who we need. I don't know. And the Georgia race for governor is huge. Like, I think there's many Republican candidates, and there's even a few Democratic candidates attempting to claim that seat in Georgia. Okay. All right, so let's see. So we're not gonna be here for a long time. We are here for a good time to have this discussion. And this live will probably be ending in another 15 minutes. So if you're trying to get your brain wrapped around your thoughts, do quickly, because the time is winding down, and once it's done, it's done. All right. So yeah, I'm very pleased that we got through this article. You know, I'm all about, what do you think? What do you feel? What I think is that it is kind of a scary thing. It's kind of a scary thing that someone can be really saying like, look at me, look at me. You know, I have this rags to riches story, but I made it, and anybody can make it. And I have ideas that I want to advance, and the people that I want to help have ideas too. So yeah, that's what we're talking about today. Oh, sorry. That is what we're talking about today. That is what I want to hear feedback about. What do you think? What do you feel? I told you what I think. I told you what I feel. I'll elaborate on what I feel. I feel, I don't know. I feel like, wow. And like I said earlier, you know, the saying, all skin folk ain't kinfolk. Every former foster youth is not going to be looking out for the best interests of all foster youth. Every adoptee is not going to be looking for the best interests of other adoptees. That's why when you hear something that feels like, oh, that's such a sweet, no, dig a little deeper and dig a little deeper. See, is it still sweet? Is there a nasty aftertaste or not? That way you won't be, or maybe you will be, but you can deal with disappointment better, I think. Because when I first saw that, I was like, what? He is a former foster youth and he is running for governor? Kind of remind me of me being a former foster youth running for city council. That happened. And hey, Pinky Red, welcome in. But then, like I said, when you dig a little deeper and you find out, oh, I'm sorry, for lack of a better better phrase, he's with the shit. How disappointing. Very disappointing. Nasty aftertaste after reading that sweet headline. But you always have to look a little deeper, and as well as see who's reporting it, who's writing it, where are they coming from. So it's like research. It's never ending. And then my other favorite thing is, what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about it? It's one thing to talk about it, but you got to be about it as far as taking action. Who do I need to call? Who do I need to email? Who do I need to connect with? What are we going to do about it? Who are we going to support? Who are we going to put our time and energy and dollars into? That's very important questions to be asking ourselves. Hey, Brutus, welcome in. So yeah, this is Talk It Out Tuesday. I was hoping we would be able to really talk it out about Rick Jackson and the run for governor of Georgia, and how he is really leaning heavily into the fact that he's a former foster youth without really doing too much for foster youth. So he is creating tax breaks for his friends, right? Because he's basically saying if you donate to this organization that says they help foster youth, you'll get a 100% tax break. And I'm like, of the 35 organizations that qualify for that, I want to know how many of them are Christian based, because the one that he is heavily invested in is a Christian based organization. All of them, half of them, 75%, that's kind of something I would want to know. And I wonder if you would want to know too. And I would want to know, what's the criteria? What criteria are they using to say that this organization qualifies? What outcomes are they looking at to say this organization qualifies to be a part of this tax break program? They have 35 currently. Is that number going to grow or no? Or will some organizations end up getting cut? I just got all the questions. Every time I take a deep dive into something, I have questions to start with, but more questions come up and more questions come up and more questions come up. Like, what about this thing or that thing? Yeah. It's like you get more questions than answers when you really digging deep doing some research. But yeah, this, like I said, this is a continuation from Money in Politics Monday. It spilled over into Talk It Out Tuesday. I was hoping we could really talk it out. Yes, AI Summary said, debating if Rick Jackson's roots as a former foster youth are being exploited by himself. Are they being exploited by his own self to win the governor's race? To win power and control? Like, he's using that as a tool to, Hallmark syndrome. It's Hallmark syndrome, just all woven in there. At the root of it is Hallmark syndrome. Look at me. I was in foster care. I grew up in the projects. I had a tough childhood, but it made me strong, and I was able to pull myself up by my bootstraps. And look at me now. I'm a multi-billionaire and running for governor. That's something that you should celebrate and vote for me. That's kind of how he's doing it. How do you feel about that? What do you think about that? I think more than being leaning into his rags to riches story, I hope people are really able to focus on, like, okay, what are you doing now? What are you doing now, and who are you supporting now? Thank you for liking the live, EM. I appreciate you tapping that screen. It does help. So yeah, we are winding down. We are literally in the last 5 minutes of this live. I don't see any more questions, comments, or concerns coming through the chat that I need to address. We've gotten through the entire article. I advise everybody, do your research and look these people up. Today we were talking about Rick Jackson, former foster youth, was never adopted, aged out, turned billionaire, and now running for governor. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. All right. So I'm debating if I'm going to play our exit song or not, but probably, I think not. I think not. I think I'll play the song we started with, because that was fun. Oh, I thought I saw. Oh well, I saw another song that could have been good, but this was good too. So yeah, thank you to everybody who's come through, who's tapped the screen, who shared this out, who has given their daily heart me, done all things. I appreciate it. But this live is officially over at 53 minutes. We're going to tap it out until we get to the 1 hour mark, 60 minutes. And then we're going to call it a night. All right. Live your wild and wonderful life, because you deserve